Today on Beyond the Image, I'm sitting down with Stacey, Chief Administrative Officer for Steinberg Diagnostic Medical Imaging. Welcome, Stacey.
Thanks.
So we're going to start with just a little bit of your background. Tell me how you got into this administrative role and what brought you to SDMI.
Moved back to Vegas because my ex-husband, at the time who was my husband, his family was here. And he retired from the military, so we came back here and needed to get a job. And I thought, well, I'll just, he's looking for an administrative assistant. I'll just take that job till I can find what I really want to do. And that was 29 and a half years ago. Now I'm responsible for all things regulatory, patient experience.
What is an average day in your life?
Chaos. Absolute chaos. It's checking emails, making sure that all of our patient complaints or patient comments are getting answered or sent out to the staff to make sure they understand that they're appreciated. Taking care of our accreditations through the American College of Radiology, the DICO, and then the AAHC. And whatever else. I feel like I spend my day, it's 8:30 and the next thing I know it's 5 and I have no idea what I've done all day, but I've been busy.
Why are these accreditations important to the organization?
They are important in that I think it gives our patients another level of trust because we don't have to do it. It's very expensive to maintain. But we do it so that we can show the patients that we care. We care that we're doing it right, that we're continually improving. We never stop. We never say, okay, this is enough. We're not going to do any more. And as long as we keep doing that, then we can share the best practices and stay on top of our game.
Can you give me a few examples of some of the things that these organizations are looking for?
Yeah, they want to make sure that we're following universal infection control guidelines down to, are we properly storing our oxygen tanks? They want to make sure that our patients, when they come here, are safe. Do we have policies to make sure that we make sure patients aren't pregnant? Certainly don't want to x-ray someone who is pregnant or put them on a CT machine. Basically, it's patient safety and also employee safety. We have a lot of life safety issues, OSHA, not issues, but standards that we have to meet. But it's all around employee and patient safety.
Almost 30 years with the organization.
Yes.
What have you seen change over the years?
Oh my goodness, Dr. Steinberg. Just the way we do business, the growth of medicine, our number of doctors, our number of facilities, the way we do business. When I started here, there were two ladies, Lona and Debbie. They did everything. They were HR, they did the hiring and firing. They, ran when I started, we had the Rancho office and Maryland Parkway, and Green Valley was being built. So that was office number 3. But they ran them all, and so that's definitely changed. With the increase of staff, we had to get, we had to hire HR, and just the whole organizational chart just expanded, and then we had to get different layers of management and the technology. I mean, there was no PET scans when I started. I think MRI was probably, we had MRI machines, but they were not, and CTs, they were not as fast as they are now and couldn't do as much. So,
what do you think sets SDMI apart from other organizations?
Our staff, the fact that we are privately owned. Dr. Steinberg and his dad, they're from Vegas. So I think the fact that we're privately owned and we don't have to go through, we want something done, we don't have to go through a committee to get it done. We don't have to wait for the next committee to meet. We just go in there and say, hey, this is what we need to do and this is why, and it's approved.
What is the most rewarding part of your job?
helping patients, believe it or not. They frustrate me, but also at the end of the day, it's helping the patients.
How do you maintain a positive work environment?
I just realized that the patients, they don't feel good. They don't come here because they want to. They're scared, and they don't know if they've got cancer. About the only person who comes here that's not sick is a woman who's having an OB. And even that can be scary if there's a possible issue. Just realize that's somebody's mom or sister or brother or dad, and treat them like it's one of my own.
So you get to talk to patients that are not necessarily happy with the organization.
I do.
And you get to hear a lot of stories, I'm sure many over the years. How do you deal with the emotional impact of some of the heavy stories you've been told?
Oh my goodness. Well, I use empathy a lot. There are some stories that I can relate to. I use my military service as a way to connect to some patients. And it's hard some days because it's emotional.
What has working at SDMI taught you?
Lots of stuff, I think. It's a tough one. There's still good people in the world. As a lot of people think it is or should be. There's a lot that goes into it. But there are still a lot of good people out there who care about patients.
Patient experience is at the foundation of SDMI as an organization. Talk to me about what SDMI does to ensure that staff is trained and focused on patient experience.
Every new employee that comes within 30 days has to have an orientation. So along with all the requirements for OSHA training and exposure and HIPAA, we spend, actually I think I have more time than anybody else in there with them. I spend about an hour and 45 minutes talking about the patient experience, why it's important, what it means to the patient, and so we do that. And then every year our staff, the leaders, or the supervisors and leads and managers are all required to get at least 3 hours of leadership training. And so with Michelle in HR, we conduct that, and mine's always focused on some aspect of the patient experience. So we keep it in the forefront.
I have a few examples here of some patient surveys, reviews, all of those things. And so first, before we go through each of these examples and talk about, kind of what the resolution was, tell me what is done every time somebody leaves a review or fills out a survey or sends an email to the organization.
Right. So I read them, and then I contact the department head, and I say, okay, we got this comment, can you look into it and get back to me? Either they will reach out to the patient, or I will email the patient, or I will reach out to the patient, depending on what it is.
So we're going to go through a few of these. The first one on here, a 1-star review, making an appointment is an absolute nightmare.
And it is. I can't argue with that right now, and we know it, and we are doing everything in our power to get it fixed as quickly as we can. We are non-stop hiring people for the call center. We will hire 3 people and a person resigns. It's just unfortunately, it's just the type of job. It's a high-stress job, and people come in to it as an entry level and then decide they want to transfer or they want to go back to school. And so for those reasons, or they just realize that talking to patients day in and day out is not something that they enjoy, so they leave. but we are doing everything in our power to get that resolved.
How would you respond to this patient? This is a public review that was left on a public forum.
Well, if she left it on a public forum, I'm going to give her a standard answer that, unfortunately, because of HIPAA, I can't talk about her even being here. And a lot of people think that that's just an excuse for us, but it's not. We can get fined. If somebody wanted to push the issue, we could get fined. So what I do is ask them to email me, either at my own email or comments at sdmi-lv.com. And then once they do that, then I will respond to them and I will explain to them that we're aware of the situation and we apologize. Using this email is a good way to contact us.
I was left in the room after my ultrasound for 30 minutes. She said she was going to check with the doctor and never returned.
Again. That one's going to go straight to, I'm going to reach out to the patient and ask her to contact me privately because we can't talk about it. I reached out to the chief of ultrasound and again contacted the patient. I always try to reach out to the department chief if it's medically related, because what's going to happen is I'm going to have to get the information from them, then turn around and try to convey that to the patient. Well, I think if you can cut the middleman out, then we should, because then it's direct information, and you've heard of the telephone game, right?
Yes, yes. So in an instance like that, where a patient is saying they were left in the room and nobody ever came back, what is kind of the result of that investigation? Is that standard practice that patients are left in?
No, no, it is not. So I don't know. So to me, it sounds like perhaps the patient wasn't communicated to. So there might have been, and that's a relatively new one, so I don't actually have the feedback from that one yet. My guess is, just based on experience, is that the tech went to get the doctor might have been doing another biopsy, and they had to wait for him to come out before they released the patient. And then once that happened, they went back. I mean, or the patient stepped out before the tech had a chance to get back to her.
Let's look at a couple more. The young woman who did the exam was argumentative and a know-it-all. She was disagreeable.
Yeah, I get that somewhat. A lot of our techs are in between a rock and a hard spot, because everybody has a different expectation of what they think healthcare should be like. So a patient comes in, the tech's very professional, and she does her job, right? That runs the risk of me getting a comment that they weren't very personable, right? So let's say you're a tech. Patient comes in and you are normal Denielle, who's very cheery, very happy, very energetic, and you're still professional and you do your job. I run the risk of getting a complaint from the patient that you weren't, that this was a joke to you, or you were overly bubbly. You should just been doing your job, right? So they're between a rock and a hard spot in that they don't know this patient. They've never seen the patient. So the best thing that they can do is be professional. And some people can't, when they're professional, they kind of look stern or they're very robotic, and they can't find that happy medium. And so that's kind of the problem that we have with that.
So what are some of the other most common complaints, concerns, questions that you get from patients?
I hear a lot about wait times in the imaging centers. A lot of our patients, one, they don't understand that we don't just, let's say a patient's here for an MRI. So that patient doesn't know that there may be 3 MRIs in this office, right? And all the patients for that modality are sitting in the same room, but patient A is going to machine 1, patient B is going to machine 2, patient C is going to machine 3. And if patient 1 has an issue, well, patients machines 2 and 3 keep going. So those patients are still going, but the next patient for the first machine is seeing all these patients go. So they don't understand that. So they don't understand, they have an appointment, and so they expect to be seen, but they don't understand that the patient before them may be a 93-year-old who's not as mobile as them, who's only 50, and they can hop on and off. And so it's just, we need to be more proactive in actually educating our patients in what to expect when they come.
Any other comments or complaints that you would like to help patients understand?
Yes, copays and deductibles. I hear a lot about we charge too much for the copays and deductibles. A lot of patients don't understand that we don't control that. Their insurance companies do. Their insurance companies tell us what we are to collect. Insurance is a very difficult thing to understand. So you have a patient who has a $500 deductible, which is either they chose it when they picked their own insurance, or that's what their employer provides, and that's just their deductible. So they come in, and at the time they came in, when we checked as a courtesy, we checked to see if we can give them a heads up on how much they owe. So they haven't met their deductible, so they're going to owe us $500. Well, what we don't know is that a week before they went somewhere else, and wherever they went took up part of that or all of that deductible. Well, that hasn't reached or been processed through their insurance, so it still shows up that they owe us $500. So I think if we could educate them a little more, or take the time when they're in our facility to explain to them that this is what happens. I believe that any chance we get to help educate our patients on how it works, because nobody else is. The insurance companies don't educate them. They give you a card, and on the back of it, it says copay deductible. They don't know that we don't have control over that. We don't charge them too much. We charge them what their insurance tells us to charge them.
Social media has brought a new level of opportunity for patrons to voice their opinions about organizations. What struggles come with that being on the business side?
Because we cannot respond. We cannot respond directly. We can't tell them what they're asking for. So it's like being put on hold, right? So I have to tell you that I can't answer your question. You have to email me privately. It's very frustrating because I know that they're waiting for a response. And I see the reviews where they say with their canned answer, but I don't have a choice. I mean, in that canned answer, I give you a way to contact me. And most people now, when it first, when they first came out with Yelp and the Google reviews, I never would hear from the patients. I would say email me at, and give them my email address, and they wouldn't. But now I think they're starting to realize that if they really want a response, then they'll email me either with my private email or my comments. We answer every comment, every complaint, and we do research them, and we want people to tell us what's wrong. Would I like to see them present that complaint in a kinder and more gentle way? Yes, I would. I think that if they just give us the opportunity, we are more than happy to look into what happened, and we will fix it. If we did something wrong, we will make it right.
Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the negative reviews, but how many really negative reviews are there versus positive 5-star comments?
Less than 1%.
And of those 5-star comments that come in, what happens with those?
We take them and we cut and paste them and put them in an email by location and send them out, usually on a weekly basis.
So, and who does that email go out to?
Goes out to all SDMI employees, and then a lot of the office managers will download them, print them out, and then put them in the bulletin board in the break rooms.
So if patients want to thank somebody that went above and beyond, or have somebody be recognized for going above and beyond, they can rest assured that that review or that comment is being seen by the person who helped them, by senior leadership, by everybody.
Absolutely, and a lot of times, if they're specific to a person, I will make sure that it is emailed to them as well, just them and their supervisor.
Have patients, or do patients regularly send positive comments, or do patients ever do anything above and beyond an email to an employee or a staff member?
Oh yeah, I get pictures all the time from people who say, look what we got today. You know, a patient will send them flowers or bring them in donuts, or just different things, especially at the holidays. They remember the people who help them. And a lot of our offices have, whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, repeat patients. So we've built a relationship with those patients.
In your almost 30 years, think back and tell me, what is your most memorable patient or experience?
Oh my goodness, I can't, because it'll make me cry. So it's actually started out as a patient complaint. I have several, but this is the one. I actually use this one in orientation. It started out as a patient complaint. We had a gentleman who was just mean, downright mean and belligerent to everyone he came in contact to. So he was needing to get a test, and they finally gave him to me, and he called me pretty much every name in the book. And so I finally said, look, we are not the place for you, and I'm going to give you the name to one of our competitors, and have you go there. I'm sure they will be more than happy to help you. And he said, I don't want to go there. And I said, well, you can't come here because I can't get you to even listen to me. And so I don't know if he didn't realize that he was being so hateful, but he said, well, can I tell you what's going on? And I said, absolutely. So he told me his story, and I've come to find out that he had just found out he had cancer, and he was taking it out on us. So long story short, I helped him get scheduled, made him promise that when he came, he would be kind to our staff, that we were here to help him. And he said, well, will you come over and meet me? And I thought, oh Lord, he's going to shoot me. So I said, absolutely. Went over, met the man, was nice as could be. We had a good conversation and never had any more problems with him.
Does that happen regularly, that you have to tell patients we are not the place for them?
You know, it happens more than I wish. It's happened a lot more, unfortunately, since COVID. COVID did something to society. Patients are just very expressive, and I know that they're angry that they're sick or whatever, but I just wish they could remember that we're here to help them, and that calling us names or telling us that we don't care or whatever, just tell us if we made a mistake, we'll help you, but you don't need to be hateful.
And is that SDMI's policy to tell patients to go somewhere else as protection to staff? What is the reasoning behind saying we're not the place for you?
Well, SDMI has, if we can't, well, there's two reasons why we do it. One is if we have done everything we possibly can to help and we just can't. So, but we want them to get their test, so we're going to send them to one of our competitors and say, hey, you know, we don't do this test, or there's really, for whatever reason, we're restricted to what we can do, we will send them to someplace. We will help them get to where they need to be so that they can get their test done. Because ultimately, patient care is what we're here for. The other reason we do it is because we have zero tolerance for abuse. And that's not just for our patients. If we have an employee who is abusive to a patient or to a staff member, they're going to lose their job. If a patient is verbally or physically abusive to our staff or our property, they will be fired. We will no longer care for them. We will send them a letter. We will do it as we are required to by law. But we have to think about our patients, the other patients there, their safety, and we have to think about our employees' safety. Our employees should feel safe when they come to work.
If you could give patients one piece of advice, what would it be?
Please be kind. We came to work and we're here to help you.
So I'd like to finish with one final question that I ask all of my interviewees, and that is, what would your younger self be most proud of you for or most surprised by?
Oh my goodness. That I'm good at what I do. I don't mean that to sound like it does. But if you'd have told me 29 and a half years ago that I was going to be good at solving problems and making other people who were sick happy, I probably would have said, no, I don't do sick people. But yeah, I think my younger self would be surprised that this is where I landed. I wanted to be an accountant. So, not sure how I got here.
Well, thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome. It's been fun.